I didn't buy myself anything nice until I was 22 years old. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't afford it without setting myself back from the goals that I made. This isn't a flex. It's about trade-offs I made as a teenager and early adult to build my wealth in my 20s. Now, for context, I am a 23-year-old, a millionaire from YouTube and real estate, still part-time in college because I want a backup plan, but I also enjoy learning. But most days I just play video games. The mindset isn't really just about being frugal. There's more to it than just that. But it's about playing kind of the long game. Zoom out on your own life as if you're a video game character being seen in third person. The actions you're taking, are you proud of them? That's some stuff that was going through my mind at that time. I was a teenager, especially growing up in America. All I saw were people spending beyond their means, buying shoes that were triple the amount of money that they'd ever get in a month, buying clothes that they could only afford using their parents' money and not their own. But I knew that living that lifestyle wasn't really what defined them. Living cheap was definitely not glamorous at all. I skipped out on clothes, I skipped out on gaming setups, parties, Uber rides, not really by choice, but because at that time I had to. Watching people around me spend money while I had to say no over and over again, honestly, while I was young, it didn't affect me too much, but it definitely had a weight over my shoulders. But the real reason why I didn't really spend was because every dollar felt like I was giving up thousands. I think I saw it on a video randomly on YouTube like years ago. It was one of those financial YouTubers, the big ones, that just talk about generalized finance and building wealth. What they would talk about was telling me like $1 invested could be hundreds, if not thousands, in the future if just invested into the stock market. Though I'm not the biggest fan of how slow that method of making wealth is, I do agree with them that every dollar that I could have spent there trying to live a life that I didn't achieve yet would have just set me back from the life that I'm living right now and the life I could have been living much further down. And so I didn't really want these financial setbacks, and I tried my best not to let it get to me. But I did have some anxiety, and it felt like I was kind of giving up fitting in to a certain degree. But I thought it was the right decision, and I could pretty much say that it was a good decision, pointing to where I am right now. But the turning point for me was when I was 22. At this point, I was making pretty decent active income, and it was around the range of like $10,000 a month. At this point, I was kind of learning how to use money rather than how to save money. I grew up in an Asian household, which means that we were basically taught to be frugal at all times, no matter what. So living below our means. Did that mean I was automatically frugal? Absolutely not. But I was on their dime for certain things like game consoles. But for things like this, it was all on my own. And by this time, I was basically making decent money for me to live off on my own. But I was also in school. That's when my relationship with money kind of changed, because as I got into business, I realized businesses spend money. That is how they generate their long-term success. Even when I couldn't afford things, I asked, will this put me behind even at this stage? But after sitting on the results, after investing my results into a house, I kind of realized I've made myself a little backup plan. Not even a plan, a little base, the foundation of this wealth that I was going to build. So with that, I started to spend a little bit, because the delayed gratification I already had kind of worked out for me. What I gained from holding back, though, was I was able to buy these assets instead of liabilities. I built cash flow really early on in my life, whether it was through content, investing, or business, and I was at pretty low stress about money since I had a bunch, and since I didn't spend a bunch. I was pretty confident in saying no and not needing to impress anyone but myself, because as I built more wealth, the people that I had to impress became less and less. Time and energy went into growing up instead of catching up, and I think this was very crucial for where I am now. Honestly, advice to people that are in that similar situation, more so on the beginning, is that you're not alone in feeling like you're just wasting money when it does come to that sort of stuff. Because for me, it exponentially grew me to where I am now. And so a time will come when you could spend a little bit. Because I think spending none of it is also a huge problem. But I think if you do have to spend money, I think a good way to spend money is to spend money on skills, on things that will build you as a person. Maybe a gym membership, because these are things that lead to your long-term success. Now, am I saying, like, I'm not telling you to get $100 membership if you only make $100 a week, okay? What I'm telling you to do is put aside a little bit of money. There are cheaper memberships you can get. There are cheaper things you can get, and stick with those. Those aren't bad. And so if you're in that situation, or even if you're in your 20s, just like me, but are trying to make it out of, let's say, a 9 to 5, you can use things pretty efficiently, even at that age. You're not behind if you're not spending, and social media probably makes you feel like you are. But honestly, it's a lot of fake urgency, okay? The fact that I was able to get to where I am at my age, that part does not matter, because one way or another, I was going to get there, whether it took me until 30, until 40. That's not the point. Don't work with other people's timelines. Everyone flexing now will probably be broke by 30, and if not, barely making ends meet, while you'll be ahead of the curve. So make sure to use your early teen years or your early 20s to build and not to ball out. You don't need to go zero spending. Don't let short-term wants kill your longevity, especially towards this goal of freedom, because this is a lifelong goal. There are people in life that could be 40, 50 that still haven't reached this goal, but they're making it work. Live below your means so that your future self doesn't have to live in regret. That is one of the things I wish someone told me a lot sooner. And I'm not gonna lie, I did get into it soon, but I'm saying this in the perspective of I play the content game. I know people that are 16 that are doing better than me, and that's because they adopted these a lot earlier. So I wish someone when I was younger told me this themselves, but I'm glad that I got to experience it on my own. And so I don't really like giving out my own thoughts without giving some tangible steps, because I really value tangible steps. That's how I get to anywhere in life. So I think a really good tangible way to do this is to stop eating out. You don't need to eat like you're freaking rich, right? You're young. You don't need to do all that stuff. Just tone it down. You probably got food at home. It might not be the most yummiest food at home, but utilize it while you still have it, because once you're out and about in the world, you're gonna have to make food for yourself. Like, seriously. It is crazy. It is a very hard lifestyle too. If you have ever tried meal planning, it is a nightmare if you don't have a system set up. So make the most out of the situation that you're in right now. So basically, whether you're a teen or if you're in your 20s right now, you still have the time to hold back. Age really doesn't matter. The point is where you're gonna be in the next 2 to 3 years. So take that action now. You will regret it if you don't. I'm so serious. The sacrifices you make now aren't losses. They are investments into your own future. A good example I like to use is the feeling of a new car. So I'm at that age where a lot of my friends have been gotten cars. But a few years ago, they were getting their first cars. They were getting their first, what I like to call, liabilities. Now I know this is different for different people. I live in a big city where you can use the train to get anywhere in the city. It is cheaper to get to anywhere in the city using the train, and so it makes a lot of sense to just stick to the train. But a lot of my friends just wanted the hype, just wanted to feel how it felt getting their own car, even if they wouldn't even be riding it for that long. And so comparatively, I am a lot more ahead, assuming they're not using it for, say, DoorDash or any of these other things, by just skipping out on that. I didn't really need it. And when I do get a car, honestly, I'd want a car that's pretty luxury, that I just drive around when I'm free, because I won't even need an everyday car if I'm not doing anything every day outside of my house. Most of my businesses are online. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is because that's one of the things that I sacrificed. I've never gotten to feel how it felt to get my own car before. And I'm 23. See what I'm saying? And so you can set up your late 20s and early 30s to be everything people dream about. It's not that hard. It's very possible. And this is one of the things that genuinely helped me get to that position, get to that point, because it just means you save more. Just by being patient and disciplined today, your future self will thank you for these dividends. If you guys enjoy talks like these, feel free to subscribe. You can also reach out to me in the description. Hope you have a good one.